Hi there, everybody. So this week's assignment was to get familiar with digitizing, and I didn't require any kind of submission for that, but I wanted you to get a chance to practice symbolizing based on an attribute again, and give everybody a chance to kind of step up their cartographic game. And really, cartography takes literally forever. It's a very iterative, self-reflecting kind of process, and the more people you can involve, the better. And it does just take a lot of practice. Some of the things that are very tedious become muscle memory, and your eyes develop, the ability to kind of see things objectively with more practice. So I just want to flip through a couple maps really quick and talk through some of the choices that had to be made with this assignment of symbolizing the CO2 emissions, the annual for 2017 over Utah. We've got a funky distribution. We've got a large state and small set of points that we need to symbolize, and there are different ways to do that. We also had some pretty awkward values to deal with in tons per year. There was a large spread in the data, very skewed, and a geometric kind of, one of you was clever and did a log scale transformation on it, and we'll talk about that too. But with the symbology, you're able to either use a graduated symbol, increasing the symbol size, or the color, changing the color to one that either increases in intensity as the values increase, or some other kind of sequential transition of color, or both in this case. And in many cases, both of you implied both things. So I think what we're looking for here is how efficiently you can tell this story of emissions over the state. And you can do it effectively by choosing some combination of symbology, making the symbols big enough so that they're really prominent on the page. It's where it's really easy to see the increase without hiding things, and this is tough. It's tough stuff to do. Could you employ transparency here, or if you scale things to where they're not overlapping, then they get kind of small, and you lose the power of the story. And the other place you tell the story is in the legend. Making sure these are clear, making sure that the legend itself is very prominent on the page, and that the text size is very prominent on the page. And then these values are horrible to deal with. You guys all tried different things. You definitely need to round them, so no decimal places, but significant digits even can become pretty laborious when we're talking about these big numbers. Some clever things to clean them up. Between ArcMap and ArcPro, ArcMap, let's see if I can flip through here. ArcPro does this less than, where they don't have the class min and max. ArcMap does the class range. So you can do that yourself. You can label this yourself, whether it's in the table of contents or however you want to do it, but you could change that. Like I said, there was the log scale. Where did that one go? Here we go. Transforming it to log scale. So it really cleans these values up, but what else happens? The other thing that happens is that we lose that story that we're going from a very relatively small number to a really pretty alarmingly big number for those other ones. Around 15 to 16 million tons per year versus the lowest ones that were orders of magnitude smaller. So I think there is this balance of trying to tell a clean story so that your audience can focus readily on what these are. It is tricky. Another thing that no one has done, it's started to happen here, where these are truncated a little bit. So we're missing 1,000 orders of magnitude, 3 decimal places. But that would have to be included here, right? Thousands of tons per year. But that would be another way to go around this, is maybe to make it millions of tons per year, and then you could truncate these quite a bit and still see orders of magnitude change from lowest to highest, but just by altering the units. And you could either calculate those in ARC, like in the attribute table, or just do it manually and retype these. with 5 or 6 classes, it's not onerous to do that. The other thing I want to mention is a lot of us, when we build the text, and especially in Legends, we'll tend to work in PowerPoint, Illustrator, Publisher, Photoshop, something like that, just because it's so much easier to work with the text. So generally it's things that are dynamic, that have to be connected, like a scale bar and the symbology. I will build those things in ARC and then either export really high res versions of them and import that into PowerPoint or Publisher, and then do all my text manipulations there. I find it a lot faster and easier. The other thing you can do, if I haven't shared this with you, you can convert your legend to a graphic, and you can then work with these as individual pieces and move them around. It comes in as a locked thing, but if you ungroup it, once you've made it a graphic, you can ungroup all these pieces and then slide things around and kind of organize it the way you want. Just some tricks. I've got a demonstration, a YouTube video demonstrating that if you're interested. So what we're looking for when we look at these maps is a clear message, right? And I think that a couple of these are very efficient with words, unlike me. Major industrial sources of CO2 in Utah and the date. Annual emissions units. Nothing repeated. Every word is conveying important information. And then the text hierarchy is really strong. Title, legend, and then fading into a smaller text size and gray. And you know, you have to decide if you want to include the labels on the map as something important. Maybe this should be dialed back even a little bit more, but you know, I'm being very picky, I get that. So I think the key is work on reducing repeating words. If you're going to put, you know, new labels or titles on a page, make sure they're introducing new information, like the units. I think that works well. I thought the symbology here was really powerful. Even though the colors don't completely graduate, they're not necessarily sequential, they're very easy to differentiate. And sometimes when you have symbols that are close to the same size, it's easier to differentiate them if they are a little bit different. So I think that's kind of a toss-up. I thought this one was really clean in how this was handled as far as truncating, and I wanted to remember to tell you guys that those are choices that you can make to change the units and change the orders of magnitude there. Let's see here. Clicking through. Yeah, I thought that was a clever approach. You just have to weigh, you know, the message that you're sending. If you want to downplay the difference between these, this would be a good way to do that. Yeah, nice and clean again, and the way it's organized, the way Arc Pro does it, you can see the orders of magnitude increasing, and I think that helps a lot. Yeah, for showing the differences between them. Yeah, really beautiful cartographic choices here with using the mask to really make Utah pop, really fading out the author and credits. Powerful symbology, just, you know, the same size, but, you know, increasing in intensity with the color. Yeah, I thought there were some, you know, stylistic kind of choices that were made here that were really nice. Yeah, and then I think, I think we have to just give Patrick kudos for labeling these. That adds a ton of information, and I haven't asked this in the past because the attribute table is kind of a mess and there isn't a really clean field for labeling, but I'm glad that you tackled this and gave that a shot. Yeah, so that's basically it. Wait, I had a whole list of stuff I wanted to talk about here. So symbolizing the correct field, yes, looking for that. Symbolizing size or color or both. Yep, we talked about that. Simplicity of text, legend items edited, making sure that you're getting rid of all the decimal places and cleaning up the values as much as you can. Data credits for sure. How well the symbology shows up against the base map. Choosing the correct base map to provide enough spatial context and landmarks. So definitely when you're doing a thematic map like this, having some kind of graphic base map with labels, I think, does help. A satellite image wouldn't be as effective here because we're not interested in that scale of detail with a thematic map like this. Yeah, we talked about the legends and the difficulty of working with those. The overall size of the symbols relative to the page, making sure that they're very dominant, but then, struggling with what you do about overlap. Text hierarchy, talked about that. Overall alignments. If you haven't yet played with, both ArcMap and Pro have, what are they called? Templates, map templates that you can load up and build in your layouts. I think that for the most part, everyone did a really nice job. There's nothing wrong with overlapping like this, but I tend to push students to really focus on building blocks with clean alignments, maintaining margins, and kind of building information blocks either at the top or the side or the bottom, where you're kind of containing all of your supplemental information. So there are some nice templates for that, and if you guys want, I can share some of those with you. Yeah, I think filling the legend background helps a lot. Same here. Overlapping works, you just want to make sure the background is nice and simple, and that little bit of fill, I think, does really help without creating too much graphic disturbance. It's very subtle. Same here, do little tiny things matter, like setting it inside the Utah border equally. These are the things we could go around and around, for weeks talking about. This one I think is very subtle. The scale bar is a little competitive. Maybe there could be an information block down here that includes all of the supplemental information. Just food for thought, not criticisms. Yeah, I would argue that a scale bar isn't really necessary on a map like this. Yeah, this has very strong, simple layout. Yeah. So I think you guys get the idea. And if you have any questions, let me know. This isn't a cartography class, but I do want you able to create really professional, simple, streamlined presentations of your results, because this is such a visual medium that if you can't make a really professional map, you're only getting half of what you could out of this class. So that's it. Questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you next week.